We were having our usual family dinner at the kitchen table. Just Lila and I because our kids are grown and out of the house. The meal was a simple veggie stir-fry concoction I whipped up. I fixed dinner tonight because she had something going on at the school where she worked and was late getting home. Lila's usually home before me, but not tonight. We decided long ago that a family dinner was important, not only for Lila and I, but so we could spend some quality time with our kids. I was about to refill my coffee cup when my 51-year-old wife mentioned something I didn't catch right away. I was distracted by my thoughts about an issue at work and wasn't giving her my full attention. What she said didn't make sense, so I probably misunderstood her. I saw her gazing at me intently, waiting for my response. "What?" I asked. "I don't understand." "You're what?" Lila studied my face with a strange expression. "I've been seeing Jake," she said quickly. "You know, the new phys ed teacher at school, Jake Carter. I know you met him. I know who Jake is." I replied, trying to make sense of this. Suddenly I had a weird feeling in my stomach. "So you're seeing him? What does that mean?" Lila took a deep breath. "We've become friends, Luke. I've been eating lunch with him. And after school lets out, I've been seeing him. You know, meeting him, going out with him sometimes." "Seeing him? Going out with him?" I scoffed. "Christ, Lila. What are you telling me? You're having an affair?" It was a joke, and I waited impatiently for her to deny my outrageous remark. Instead, she watched me close and stated, "Yes." "Yes?" I snickered and in disbelief blurted out, "Yes, what? You're having an affair?" "Yes, Luke. This can't be true." I started to speak, but nothing came out. "Please just listen, Luke," she said quickly. "I'm sure this is a shock, and I know what you're thinking. But it's not like that. It's not a bad thing, darling. Really, it's not. I just had to tell you about Jake because I do love and respect you. I always have." "Respect me? Love me?" I gasped. "How can you?" "It's true." She interrupted me. "You've always been my number one guy. Getting married to you was the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you, and I'll never give you up. I love you so damn much. I just couldn't go on seeing him without saying something to you." My eyes locked onto her face, holding a shred of hope that this conversation was some kind of joke, maybe a setup or something. Lila loves me as much as I love her. She couldn't be having an affair. When she didn't retract her statement, I tried to figure out what the hell was going on. "I don't know what to say, Lila. I'm completely confused right now. Please don't feel bad, Luke," she pleaded. "Yes, I've been seeing Jake. But he's just a friend, and I certainly don't love him. Think about it, honey. My being with him hasn't affected our love and our relationship one bit." I ground my teeth, still reeling from this unexpected turn of events. "How can you say you love me?" "I do love you," she continued earnestly. "We have a great marriage, and I'll always treasure that. But I need to have other male friends too. I've never complained about you having male friends," I countered. "I know that, and I appreciate it. And that's really all Jake is to me. I always love being with you, honey. But when I'm with Jake, it's different. He's a lot younger than us and thinks differently about things like this. I have to admit that sometimes he makes me feel like a teenager again. I haven't felt like this in—" "Stop," I cried. I wanted to remain reasonable, but my self-control suddenly snapped. I had to interrupt her romantic story. "Please spare me the details of your sordid affair. I don't want to hear how you feel with him, or what you and that asshole do behind my back." Lila saw the anger and spoke cautiously. "I'm sorry, honey. I know it's a sore subject right now, but I want to be truthful. Please don't hate me. Yes, I'm seeing Jake, but you don't have to worry about anyone knowing. We've been very discreet so no one knows. We both made sure of that. I'm sure you never suspected anything, and no one else does either. That's supposed to make me feel better? I guess not. I just wanted you to know we aren't disrespecting you in public. Just in private, I thought to myself. Please believe me, Luke. Jake will never take your place. He's just a fun young guy for me to hang around with for a while. A guy that gets something from me that you never missed. I'll always put you first in everything, and please believe that I never meant to hurt you. I just couldn't keep hiding it from you. Being with Jake is just a small favor I need you to allow me." I was seething at her casual attitude. He's just a fun guy? A favor? She gives him something that I'll never miss? My face was flushed with anger, and my eyes glared at her. I tried to lash out verbally at her. You sorry, selfish, conniving." I sputtered furiously. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "You damn cheating cold-hearted. How could you, damn it?" She let me finish my rant and said, "I guess I deserve that." I couldn't take any more right now. I jumped up so fast the chair I was sitting in fell over backward. I spun around and marched angrily out of the room. My coffee was forgotten. "Where are you going, Luke?" Lila cried. "Don't go, please." I need a minute to process this. I snapped back at her. Give me a few minutes and I'll be back. I charged out the back door as she whimpered. Okay, my love. I stomped out onto the spacious deck in the back of our house, red-faced and breathing heavy. An affair. She's cheating. I was furious at the disrespect she's showing me. I pounded the railing in frustration before trying to calm down. I'm usually pretty even-tempered. But tonight, listening to my wife's bullshit about her adultery, I was losing control. For years, the ability to remain stoic and in control of my emotions has served me well as an accountant. Many times, when speaking with a frantic client, my patient, cool-headed appraisal of their situation calmed them down and helped me figure a way out of their financial problem. Unfortunately, this was different because it was personal. I couldn't believe my middle-aged wife. We've been married over 20 years, and now she tells me she's in an affair with a young guy she works with. Yeah, I've met that a-hole. I thought he was just a friend of hers when I met him at some school function a while ago. Lila introduced him as a friendly acquaintance, and I stupidly believed her. Now I know different. My frazzled mind was spinning with disturbing images of what I had just heard. I took some deep breaths and tried to calm down. I had to think, and I couldn't do that if I was distraught. Bursting back into the kitchen screaming at her would only turn our discussion into a bitter shouting match. Cursing her out might make me feel good at first, but in the long run it would be counterproductive. Screaming and yelling has never been my style anyway. If I know Lila, yelling and cursing would just make my stubborn wife harden her position. It would give me no information to figure a way to get her to stop. No, I had to approach this issue using all of my faculties. I had to force myself to revert to my objective, unemotional accountant persona. I need information about her affair so I can objectively analyze the data. It took another 10 minutes for my blood pressure to slow down. When my heart stopped racing and I was breathing normally again, I went back inside the house to confront my unfaithful wife. Lila was still at the kitchen table, fidgeting nervously with her coffee cup. She glanced up as I entered with a worried, tentative look on her face. She waited for me to sit back down and started to speak. I put up my hand to cut her off. Wait a second. Let's start this over, I said in an even tone. Needless to say, my love, I never expected this tonight. I have to say, Lila, I'm completely amazed and pretty upset right now. Oh, look, you don't have to be. I put my hand up again to stop her again. Hold it. So, what's your plan now? I guess you want me to forgive and forget? Is that it, Lila? You've been seeing a guy at work behind my back, and I'm supposed to just forgive you? Well, not exactly, she said, looking uneasy. I knew you'd be upset. I can't blame you for that. I just wanted you to know what was going on. I mean, I didn't want to keep you in the dark anymore. Shit. I cursed before I could stop. So, what did that slick creep say when you told him you were going to clue me in? Well, we both thought, it's for the best, Luke. That's what he said? Not exactly. Despite what you think, Jake's not a bad guy. I know he feels bad about us sneaking around. We both do. Really? Yes. He doesn't want to screw up our marriage, and neither do I. I was going to challenge her to end her affair when she drove the knife in deeper. With a resolute look, she sighed. Phew, this so is hard. But now that you know what's going on, I want to keep seeing him. Not too often, mind you. Just now and then, and of course after school hours. I gasped at the gall of this woman and snorted. Oh, of course. I was speechless, and maybe she was too. Neither one of us spoke. We just sat there looking at each other. The atmosphere was incredibly tense for a while before my wife sighed with a pained look. I'm so sorry, honey. I know this is hard for you, but he's really a nice guy. We connected on some level and have a lot of fun together. I admit that I'm into him, but it won't affect us one bit. You've got to be kidding. No, I'm not. Me seeing him won't change anything between us. It hasn't yet, and I'm going to make sure it won't in the future. You probably don't agree, but he's been a good friend for me. It might not seem to you right now, but I think he's been good for our marriage too. Really? You're insane. Just try to think logically, Luke. Have you noticed how upbeat and happy I've been lately? You remember accusing me of being bitchy last year. Well, I admit I was. We were arguing. Our marriage was tense and our love life was growing a little stale. We were in a rut when I first started seeing him. What a great story. I guess he's a marriage counselor too? She ignored my sarcasm. Since we became friends, Jake helped me straighten out my attitude. I appreciate it, and I know you do too. I guess we're more than just friends now. I don't need to see him often, just occasionally when you're busy. I know we can work this out, Luke. I love you. I want to grow old with you and be with you forever. You have to know that. I could hardly believe the bullshit I was hearing. So, you're not ending the affair. It was a statement. You're asking me to accept that you're going to keep screwing him. Of course, it will end, darling, eventually. She assured me. We get along right now, but he's a lot younger than me. We're from different generations, and we both have very different interests. Jake and I could never have the type of long-term, committed relationship we have. At some point, our mutual feelings for each other will just fizzle out. Just not right now. You're really out of your mind. Please, Luke. You have to believe me. I promise you nothing between us will change in the slightest. She patted me on the wrist like a good boy. I'm still the same loving wife I've always been. We'll still carry on our loving relationship. I adore making love to you, and always will. For the past few months, you haven't noticed anything different, have you? I hated to admit it, but she was right. I never suspected the reason why our relationship had become so sexual lately. When we first started dating Lila, and I had sex frequently. Over the years we were just as loving, but as the kids got older and needed us to accommodate their busy lifestyle, our love life did slow down quite a bit. Even after they left for college, we never got our love life back to the frequency it was previously. I didn't see it as a problem, though. I assumed most married couples our age didn't tear up the sheets every night. But with my new knowledge, I realized Lila was correct that we had gotten back on track. I couldn't deny I was elated that we were now making love several times a week, if not more. It was the same frequency we enjoyed when the kids were younger. When she asked if I had noticed any negative effect on our love life while she was screwing Jake, the truth is I didn't. When I didn't answer her, she answered for me. Of course not, she said confidently. Despite seeing Jake from time to time, I made sure I was always there for you. You have to admit we make love a lot for people our age, and I love it as much as you do. I'm here for you anytime you need me. We both love each other, I know that. When I'm with you, Jake never gets in the picture. He's only a tiny part of my life. We have a stable, 20-year marriage, and I want to continue that. I asked incredulously. Of course I love you, but how can I stay married to a cheating 304 like you? She didn't like that. She frowned, and her sympathetic expression hardened. I'm not a 304, she stated categorically through tight lips. I'm surprised you'd insult me like that. This is the first time I've ever cheated on you. And just so you know, I've never been with a man I didn't have feelings for. So you have feelings for him? I exclaimed. That's just wonderful. How do I know you haven't just replaced me with a younger model? That you're just waiting to see how things work out with asshole, keeping me as a backup? It's not like that at all, Luke. She insisted. You're my husband, and I do love you, honey. I'll never leave you. It's just that once in a while, I want to be with Jake. Not all the time, mind you, and not forever. Just until I get this weird urge out of my system. That's all I'm asking. Just a little time to do something you'll never have to worry about. It won't affect us. Just like it hasn't for the past few months. I sat there for a few painful minutes as my naive, brain-dead wife babbled on. I couldn't believe she'd think our relationship wouldn't change. Now that I knew she was a cheating 304, it already had. My mind was racing with disturbing images of what she and that bastard were doing every time she wasn't home. After a while, my brain came back to reality and I listened as she kept justifying her sordid affair. It'll be better for us in the long run, Luke. I've been so much more relaxed and positive lately and uninhibited. In the bedroom, I mean. She giggled. You must have noticed how much better sex has been. I haven't turned you down for sex once, and I don't plan to. I've also allowed you some extra things that you've wanted to do for years. Well, I'll let you do anything you want now. Since I've been with Jake, I've been able to express the sexual side of myself fully. No more hang-ups about oral sex or anything. You must have noticed. Don't you feel that's true, Luke? She's right again. I did notice, and it pissed me off. Our sex life used to be pretty conservative. We aren't swingers. We do enjoy oral sex in a few different positions. But we never watched porn, included others in our bedroom, and mainly used the missionary position because I enjoyed looking into her eyes as I pleasured her. I wasn't complaining. Lila's a lovely woman and a generous lover. We both got off and I was certainly satisfied. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice that Lila had turned into a sexual dynamo the last few months. I thought it was because the kids weren't around, or because of some hormonal thing as she got older. Maybe I'd become a better lover. Now I realized it was screwing that young stud from school that was firing her up. Funny how she thought the truth would excite me, when actually it was very depressing. I always felt lucky to marry her. When we met, Lila was a sexy divorcee, 4 years older than I with 2 young children. I was attracted to her, and we got along fine right from the start. It was her second marriage and my first. I know I was happy to be in a relationship with such a charming, intelligent woman. My coworkers used to kid me about having an older wife. But I loved her and her kids and never worried that they weren't mine. Her first husband was a loser and a deadbeat dad. He left soon after she had their second child. When we married, I adopted them and raised her kids as my own. While I wasn't biologically their father, I was the only dad they'd ever known. They both have grown to be respectable young people, and I'm proud of them. Now, after 20 blissful years of marriage, she dumps this shit on me. Say something, Luke. She urged, studying my face. I know you're upset, and you might feel hurt. I don't want you to. I want to help make this as easy as I can. I know you still care for me, and I know you have needs. Let me help you feel better, honey. You'll always be my number one. She rose from her seat, flashed a suggestive smirk, and came to me, swaying her hips in a manner that usually turned me on. Please don't worry about anything. I'm here for you. Let me know how to help you, baby. I'm sure we can think of something. When she started to sit on my lap, I shoved her away. She gave me a hurt look, but didn't push it. Without warning, I got up and bolted from the room. It caught her by surprise, and she barely had time to call out, "Wait," before I was out the door and into the car. As I drove off, I saw her at the doorway with her hands covering her face. I had to get out before I did something I'd regret. It was 10 minutes before I realized I was just driving around in circles. I thought about doing the usual angry bitter spouse thing, heading to a bar and getting shit-faced. There was a small local bar at the next corner, so I parked in front, went in and sat down. I ordered a beer. Just tried to clear my head. Later, I drove back home with a purpose. The guy didn't know me from Adam, but he'd giving me some great advice. When I came back in the door, Lila was talking on her cell phone. She looked surprised to see me and whispered urgently into her phone when she saw me enter the room. "I have to go," she whispered. "No, I can't. He's back by." By the tense look on her face, I suspect she was speaking to her boyfriend. It galled me, but I forced myself to remain calm and resolute. I needed to do what that smart bartender told me. I returned to my seat. The cold coffee cup was still there. Lila sat across from me with a serious look on her face. "Luke," she started to say before I cut her off. "Hold it. Let me speak. I'm not sure I want to hear, but I think I have to know how your affair got started. I hope it will somehow help me deal with it." With a grim look, I asked her, "So how long, Lila? How long have you been forsaking our wedding vows?" Lila let out a sigh. Right to the point, she must have thought. "Not too long," she admitted. "We've been friends for a while. It didn't turn physical until a few months ago." She let me know how his words made her feel special and how helped her explore her sexual feelings. She let out a deep breath, as if telling me this story was a big load off her mind. "So where do we go from here?" I asked. "You just admitted to lying and cheating on me for months. How do you think I feel? My cheating wife is being screwed by some young stud not much older than our kids, and I never knew a thing. You expect me to congratulate you for being so clever?" "No, not at all, Luke." She reached across the table and held my hand. I tensed up but didn't pull away. No matter how devastated I was, I still loved her. "Please understand. I'm very ashamed for deceiving you," she said. "I hate the fact that I let you down. I know you never knew about Jake because we've been very discreet about our relationship. I didn't want you to know about us. I was so ashamed of what I was doing and nervous you'd suspect something. The first few times I came home after meeting him, I felt terrible and vowed it would never happen again. Jake was very supportive to my situation. He never pressured me to continue. He left it up to me. He was happy to just see me occasionally. We both agreed that we didn't want to mess up my marriage. I guess that changed." She held my hand tighter and watched to see how I was taking this. "No matter how badly I behaved, I know I love you. Jake's a good guy, and he'll be a great catch for a lucky girl someday, but he can never take your place." I told him all the time that we'd never be more than friends with benefits, and he agreed with that. He said he was very fond of me, but felt the same way. As long as we didn't raise any suspicions at school, I knew I could probably go on having sex with him and no one would know. However, completely avoiding him when our coworkers knew we were friends would raise questions I didn't want to answer. So, we still had lunch once in a while to appear normal, but we never let on that we were anything more than friends. Heidi and other teachers even joined us sometimes at lunch. I know they never suspected anything. "I'm sure you were one clever cheater," I spat out, losing my cool for a moment. Lila flashed me a sad look and nodded her head. "Yeah, I was clever all right. On the surface, I was a faithful wife with a great teaching job, lots of friends and a good, traditional marriage. Inside, I knew it was a lie. The problem was I couldn't avoid was my conscience. I always considered myself an honest person and a good wife. My bad behavior undermined that image. Deep down, I began to hate myself for deceiving you. Our marriage is precious to me and had always been the most important part of my life. What I had with Jake was just a temporary situation. I do care about him, but my feelings toward him are just a shadow of what I feel for you. My lack of integrity began to bother me to the point where I was becoming jaded about my life. Despite how I'd handled things, I was losing my virtuous self-image. I had become someone I didn't like. The answer to that is just to stop cheating. Yes, that's probably true, but I'm not sure I can right now. With harsh honesty, Lila admitted, I'd like to think I could just drop Jake and things between us would just go back to normal Luke. But truthfully, I doubt that. Why? I shot back, unable to remain passive. You said yourself we're happy together. We've raised 2 great kids and have gone through some of the hardest parts of married life. We both have great jobs and have built a life together. With Martha and Robbie at college, we now have a chance to enjoy our time together in a way that we haven't been able to before. If you love me like you say, coming back to be my faithful wife and giving up that a-hole should not be an issue. She exhaled hard and shot me a look of concern. It probably would have been, at first. Now I'm not so sure. Of course, I love you like no other Luke. But for the past few months, I've seen another side of life and learned a lot about myself and my needs. I'm not sure I can, even if I want to, just go back to the way I was. I've tried to be the same loving wife to you that I've always been. But being with Jake has opened my eyes to, well, other options. I angrily pulled my hand from hers. I tried to remain calm, but I couldn't. Other options, huh? I spat. You can't stop screwing him. Is that it? You're too in love with his meat. I was good enough to marry and support you and your kids all these years. But some hot shit young stud comes along later in life, and I'm not good enough anymore. No, it's not that, honey. Don't ever think that. She declared. I've always said you're the best husband and father I could have asked for. But after so many years of marriage, I've changed. We both have. Neither one of us is the same as when we first married. It's not a bad thing. It's just the natural progression of 2 people who've lived together for many years. I glared at her, unable to speak without losing control. When she saw I wasn't speaking, Lila said, I don't want to hurt you, Luke. I really don't. I know you may not believe that right now, but it's true. We are going to be together and nothing will change between us. I'll make sure of that. Despite feeling bad for your feelings, I'm not unhappy with my life right now. I have a wonderful husband who I love very much, 2 wonderful kids who love and respect you. I just have a male friend I see occasionally for fun and excitement. A nice young guy that I like, who makes me feel things I haven't felt since I was a teenager. I hope you can understand how I feel, and that you'll love me enough to allow me this favor. You bitch. I whispered under my breath. You bitch. If she heard me, she didn't say anything. She just kept talking. It's not a bad thing, Luke. Just remember I'm always there for you. You can always count on me. But I'd like things to remain the way they are for a while longer. Not forever. Just until I finish exploring these new experiences. Then I'll end it with Jake and go back to being yours exclusively. That's what I want for us. Just give me a little time to settle down. I hope you can appreciate how honest I am. I don't want any more secrets. If you allow me this liberty, I promise I'll make it up to you. You'll never want for anything, darling. I'll always be a good wife. No one will ever know about the tiny bit of time I spend away from you. Just give me a little support on this one issue, and I'll reward you for the rest of your life. Shit. This conversation was worse by the minute. When she first laid out her affair on me, I was caught off guard. We started our regular dinner time chat, with me feeling great about my marriage. In a few short minutes, I've gone from being a happy husband to a depressed cuck. My formerly loving wife now has a lover who is younger and no doubt more virile than me. It took me a few minutes to regain my bearings. This was a lot of shit to contend with. I thought I could convince her to listen to reason and end this affair. Now it was clear she had no intention of ending it. She just needed my cooperation to allow her to continue to explore her feelings. This was cheater's bullshit at the highest level. You've been lying for months. In fact, you're so good at lying I never suspected anything. Now you admit to all the lies and the cheating and promise to keep me as your husband. But don't you see the problem with that? Now that I know you've lied repeatedly, and not just to me but to our kids, our friends, and everyone else we know, how the hell can I ever trust you again? How do I know you're not just going to change your mind? Change your mind about Jake or some other hot guy you meet sometime in the future and replace me with a younger model? Lila snorted in frustration because she knew I had a point, and it hit the nail on the head. No matter what she said, she was now a verified liar. Nothing she said could be trusted. She looked back at me and her eyes were watery, like she wanted to dispute my claim but knew I said the truth. I would never do that, and you know it. She finally told me. You have a lot of nerve. I told her bitterly, acting all entitled and arrogant. Throwing your adultery in my face. Why shouldn't I just get rid of you? I don't want a cheating wife. I never did. I should just divorce your sorry ass and be done with you. If I thought those bitter words would sting, I was mistaken. Lila's expression softened, and she looked at me with unexpected compassion. When she spoke, there was an edge to her tone she hadn't used before. I know this is difficult right now, she answered, trying not to appear smug. But divorce? I doubt that would be in your best interest, Luke. Why? At least I could keep my pride. Her look of pity was infuriating. A divorce would hurt me badly, and you too, honey. At least I wouldn't have to put up with your affair any longer. That may be true. She shrugged indifferently. But I don't think you'll be happy getting a divorce. Neither of us would. Her eyes locked onto my face. In a sharper tone, she explained, to start with, as you know, we live in a no-fault state. I'll probably end up with half of everything, including the house, the savings, and our retirement fund. Because you adopted Martha and Robbie, you'll be required to contribute to their college education. There's also alimony, since I don't make half what you do on my meager teacher's salary. The court will expect you to support me in a reasonable manner. It could all come to quite a tidy sum. I guess her and her young lover have this all worked out. So, you'd clean me out in the divorce. It was a statement. I certainly don't want to. She informed me. I'd never want to do that. I want to keep living with you and loving you the same as always. But if you left me in a divorce, you'd be on the hook for quite a bit of money. Of course, I'd still be free to see Jake anytime I want, which I know would be uncomfortable for you. It's much better if we just keep on like we have been. We'll remain married and live our wonderful life. You'll still have me as your loving wife, and we can have great sex anytime you want. No one will ever know the difference. I'll always keep you my #1 guy. Then she added in a sympathetic tone, I'll always be grateful for your open-mindedness about this, and I'll give you anything you want. I just want some time with Jake. Not a lot. Just a bit. The rest of the time, I'll keep making you happy. I was happy before you laid this shit on me, I said bitterly. Now I know I'm just a stupid cuck for my faithless wife, and that bastard you work with. It's not like that, Luke. I began to walk away and she called out, wait. Don't go, honey. We have to discuss this some more. Please. There's nothing to discuss, Lila. You've issued your ultimatum. Now I have to decide if I want to accept it. There's nothing for you to worry about. She cried. Nothing will change between us, you'll see. I don't want you to think about anything other than I love you so much for allowing me this freedom. I'll do anything to make you happy. Then end your affair right now. She took a frustrated breath, looked down and whispered, I can't do that just yet, honey. I can't stop right now. It won't be for long, though. Then there's nothing more to talk about. This conversation is over. I've heard all I can stand. You told me how you feel, and nothing I say will convince you otherwise. At the same time, I'll never be able to believe anything you say again. I give up trying to talk sense to a liar and a cheat. I went into the den and turned on the TV. I didn't care what was on. I was still in a daze from the difficult conversation. I thought about going to a hotel and staying away without telling her. I was so angry I wanted to hurt her the way she hurt me. But I knew leaving home and getting drunk was not my style. I guess I'm too rational or boring to do anything rash. I was numb and tired. It felt like a nightmare. How could she do this to me? I watched TV for another hour or so. There was a game on, but I couldn't tell you one thing about it. I heard my wife leave the kitchen at some point. The sliding glass doors opened and closed when she went out on the back deck. I guess she was calling someone and needed privacy, probably the shithead boyfriend, to let him know how our conversation went. She came in quite a while later and entered the den. I was on the recliner, so she couldn't sit next to me. She did move close and watched me for a while. Are you all right, Luke? She asked sweetly. I know this was a lot to accept, honey, and I want to help you. I glanced over and saw her flash me a weird smile. You want to talk some more? Or do you want to go to bed? She asked. You know I'll do anything to make you feel better. I really want to. I was disgusted. Offering me sex to console my hurt feelings. Pity sex for your poor old husband. Probably at the suggestion of her boyfriend. Sloppy seconds for the clueless dupe. How cliché. The whole idea pissed me off. I just ignored her offer and went upstairs to bed. I was furious with my wife and thought about sleeping in the guest room, but decided she was the one at fault. So why should I leave my room? I undressed in record time and jumped into bed. A few minutes later, Lila entered the room. She saw I was already under the covers, so she went to our private bathroom and changed into a sexy nightgown she knew I liked. She turned off the light, slid under the covers without a word, and began sliding toward me. I now know she's a cheater and had no intention of having sex with her. I turned on my side away from her and hoped she'd get the message. Instead, she moved closer, tried to spoon me and reach for my cheek to turn me to her side. I pushed her hand away. Like to fool around, honey? She whispered softly. Suddenly an image appeared in my head. It was a revolting image of my slender, 51-year-old wife on Jake's bed. She was lying on her back, getting vigorously screwed. I imagined her grabbing him and smiling at him as he took what was exclusively mine. Without moving, I pulled her hand off me and said, "Never again." "But honey, I know you're upset." "I just wanted to." I flipped over and glared at her. She was startled by my angry expression and drew back from me. Even in the dark, I'm sure she could sense my bitterness. "Of course, I'm upset, damn it." I spit out. "I just found out I've been a cuck for months. If you need sex so bad, go call Jake. I'm sure your young stud can take care of your needs." Lila was flabbergasted. I don't think she expected me to reject her like this. I glared at her for a few moments, then spun back on my side facing the wall. Lila didn't say a word and didn't bother me anymore. I had a lot of trouble getting to sleep, and I know she did too. The next morning, I was up before the alarm went off. I barely slept and was still bitter as hell at the conversation last night. Lila was in bed, but she wasn't asleep. I took a quick shower, and when I came out, she'd already left the bedroom. Lila had to be at the school an hour before I did. I've always been an early riser. Even though I didn't have to go in early, I was usually up before her, and sometimes even fixed breakfast. Not anymore. That was before I knew she was screwing that a-hole. I dressed and cleaned up in record time. When I left the room, I saw her downstairs fixing breakfast in the kitchen for a change. "Good morning, Luke," she called out sweetly. "There's bacon and eggs for you, and some toast. You want some coffee too, dear?" I ignored her greeting and her offers. Screw her and her boyfriend. Without even looking in her direction, I just walked out of the house. "Look, wait please." I heard her call out as I slammed the door, got in my car, and zoomed off down the street. At work, I tried to forget about my problems, but I kept thinking about her and that young SOB and couldn't concentrate. Through the day, I got several calls from Lila. I didn't answer, and her messages went to voicemail. I didn't bother listening to them and just deleted them. She sent me a few cute texts. I glanced at them and deleted them too. With her texts and calls, I couldn't get her out of my mind. I made several simple mistakes in some of the work I was reviewing and finally decided to take the afternoon off. I called up a lawyer for a consultation. He was an old guy and took me in right away. It seemed what Lila told me about divorce was true. I would be screwed emotionally and financially, while she'd come out well off, with a young stud boyfriend to screw. I'd be financially strapped supporting her, and since I never cheated, I didn't have a girlfriend to soothe my heartache. I'd end up rather poor and alone, and maybe in a small one-bedroom apartment. Not a pretty picture. If I stayed with her, it wasn't much better. Sure, I'd get sex. She made sure to emphasize that. But it would be sloppy seconds and pity sex to boot. It was clear this younger guy rung her bell in a way I never would. At 47 years old, there was no way I could compete in bed with a good-looking, athletic 30-year-old, or however old his is. Also, if I stayed in the marriage and ignored her cheating, to the court it meant I was sanctioning her affair. They'd assume I was okay with a cheating wife, and I could never claim adultery in a divorce proceeding. Even more daunting was trying to fight fire with fire. Basically, remain married and have my own competing affair. In a relationship contest with my wife, I'd lose every time. There's plenty of guys who want to have sex with her, even guys as young as her kids. Jake was proof of that. At 51 years old, Lila's still fairly attractive with short dark hair, a trim body, and a pleasant personality. I'm an average-looking older guy, with a slightly receding hairline and holding a little too much weight. I have a good job, and I'm okay looking for a 47-year-old. But I don't know how many women want an older middle-class, married boyfriend. Not many, I guess. The contrast between our dating prospects was depressing. She was still hot and I was not. After a frustrating day in the office, I went to the bar for dinner. I stayed away as late as I could. Unfortunately, I never got into the bar scene, and it was boring being by myself. I wanted to be home with my wife, sipping a beer and snuggling by the TV. Not dousing my sorrows alone in a bar, gulping alcohol surrounded by a bunch of lonely guys like me. When I got home, Lila was already in bed. It wasn't that late, but I guess she just gave up on me getting home. Not that I cared. I woke up early after another difficult sleep. I left the house at dawn and went to Denny's for breakfast. I drove around and did some window shopping, basically wasting as much time as I could. Then I went back home, wondering if my cheating wife was there or out screwing that young bastard at his apartment. It turned out she was home. She must have heard my car pull up because when I got to the door, she opened it and welcomed me with a smile. When she tried to kiss me, I turned my head so she hit my cheek. She looked surprised when I pulled away from her embrace and moved past her. I went into the den for a while to keep away from her. Later when I came out, I found her in the kitchen. I went in to get a beer. Then I went to the living room and turned on the TV. She showed up a few minutes later with a glass of wine. "Mind if I join you?" Lila asked pleasantly. I noticed she had changed. She was now wearing a thin tank top that fit tight to her and left her arms and shoulders bare. She also was wearing a pair of tight, skimpy shorts. I couldn't miss the scent of her spicy perfume. "Suit yourself." I was sitting on the sofa this time. I moved to the side, giving her the rest of the sofa. She made it a point to sit right next to me. During the TV show, Lila grew more amorous. I knew the wine had her a little high, maybe even a little horny. She certainly wasn't drunk. When her head moved close to my neck, I picked that exact moment to say, "I need to use the bathroom, Lila." I politely moved her back, got up, and walked away. As I left the room, I saw her look at me funny because I almost never failed to respond to her advances. I finished up in the bathroom, but instead of going back to the living room, I went into the kitchen. "You coming back?" she asked. "This show is getting good." "Not right now." I purposely stayed in the kitchen for a while. When I thought it was long enough, I left the kitchen with a beer and went straight into the den, shutting the door behind me. As expected, Lila opened the door a few minutes later. "What you doing?" she asked with a smile. "Just some stuff I need to get caught up on." "You don't want to watch the show?" "Better not." "Oh, okay." She was still standing there as I kept my attention on the computer. When I didn't look at her, I could almost sense her frustration. I knew she was puzzled. After such a nice dinner, I'm sure she hoped there'd be a thawing in the atmosphere. A minute or so later, I felt her hands on my shoulders. "What you looking at now?" she asked, glancing at the computer screen and pretending to show interest. I had pulled up some paperwork from an account I was working on. It was a complicated financial spreadsheet. So, I knew she wouldn't know what it was. "I got kind of busy on Friday and didn't finish this," I told her. "I didn't think you'd mind if I missed the show." "Oh, of course not." I shivered when she began rubbing my neck. She knew I like having my head and neck rubbed, and she made the massage suggestive as she could. Her hands were moving around my neck, scratching my head a bit. I could smell the alcohol on her breath when she leaned down and kissed my head lovingly. I just ignored her. It took 10 more minutes for her to get the hint that I wasn't interested. Finally, she just walked away and went back to the living room. "Could you shut the door, please?" "Okay," she said as she pulled it closed behind her. I breathed a sigh of relief. After being my sole lover for so long, Lila still turns me on a lot. All the shit she was doing was designed to get me horny, and it was working. But I was determined to remain disinterested in her feminine charms. I had no intention of sharing them with another guy. It took me 3 hours to finish the work. When I went upstairs to bed, I found her asleep. She was wearing a very revealing nightie with matching panties. I guess he wanted to seduce me. In that skimpy outfit, it sure would have whet my appetite for sex. She planned to surprise me, but grew tired from the wine and fell asleep. Sunday morning, I got up before Lila and once again ignored her all day. On Monday, her car did not start, and I had to drop her to her school. She asked me to pick her as well. Later during the day, I got half a dozen calls from Lila's school. I knew she was desperate to tell me that she'd get a ride home, no doubt from her boyfriend. I just ignored them. I made sure to leave work early and got to Lila's school before her last class let out. I waited for the kids to leave the room. When I showed up in her classroom, she was quite surprised and not too happy. "Hey honey, ready to go home?" I chirped happily. She leveled a harsh glare at me. "I called you all day, Luke. Why didn't you call me back?" "Sorry. I was pretty busy today. I wanted to tell you I've already arranged a ride home." "Oh really? Well, no matter. I'm here now, so let's go." At that moment, a tall, athletic guy with dark hair breezed into the room. He moved easily toward my wife like he expected her to come over and kiss him. Of course, I recognized him right away. It was her boyfriend, Jake. I'd seen him before, but I didn't take note of him that much then. A few feet away, he looked even younger than I remember him. More like a college frat boy than an adult teacher. He had on sneakers, shorts, and a t-shirt which displayed his muscular arms and legs. He's an asshole, but he was good looking and did appear to be in great shape. I could see why Lila was attracted to him. Lila's eyes widened when he arrived. Jake looked a little confused. "Oh, Jake, she sputtered. "I was just telling, Luke that she already has a ride home," I said, completing her sentence. I kept my cool because I knew there was a possibility he'd be there. He looked surprised to see me. When he recognized me, he smiled annoyingly and glanced from me to my wife. "Oh, hello," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Jake Carter." I ignored it and replied coolly, "Yeah, I know who you are." Trying to diffuse the tension, Lila squeaked, "Jake, this is Luke, my husband. I think you met him once." The young man's confused expression softened a bit as he remembers me. "Oh, that's right. Yes. Luke Wilson. I remember you. Nice to see you again. I'm sure it is. I remember we met at parents' night a few months ago. I've heard a lot of good things about you from Lila. She holds you in high regard. Not high enough, I guess. I replied with an edge. I glanced warily at my wife. She looked like she was holding her breath. Lila, let's get out of here, I said, wrinkling my nose as if the smell bothered me. She began to gather her things as Jake turned to me. Excuse me for a minute, Mr. Wilson. Can I call you Luke? I scowled and ignored his question. What the hell do you want? Just a minute of your time, Luke. I know there's some tension between us. I guess it's understandable, but there doesn't need to be. I know Lila let you know about our friendship. So, I just wanted to make it clear that I have no animosity toward you, and I do respect the strong, loving relationship you have with your wife. Is that why you're screwing her? I asked. Across the room, I heard my wife inhale sharply with concern. Jake nodded sympathetically. Yes, it's true. Lila and I are good friends, and we have expressed our friendship intimately. But that doesn't mean we don't respect you and your place in her life. On top of that, neither of us wants to do anything to damage your marriage or your family. We can only be friends and no more than that. She's always said she loves you, and only you. This is one slick-talking a-hole, I thought. Jake continued his speech with a smile. I hope you won't resent my friendship with Lila. She has been a wonderful influence on everyone around her, including me. Once we got caught up in our relationship, we realized we should have come to you before we became intimate. That was all my fault. She was totally proper in her behavior, and it was me that took things further than I should have. So, you admit you seduced her? In a way, yes. She's a lovely woman, and I admit being a little infatuated. As a result of my lack of self-control, I found myself behaving in a non-professional manner. But believe me when I say that I never meant you any harm. On the contrary, I appreciate you letting her teach here so she can be a role model for the kids. Her friendship has meant a lot to me, and I'll value it for the rest of my life. That was some serious bullshit. I didn't know what to say. I glanced away from this idiot's face to my wife, and saw her watching his performance in apt attention. Her eyes were sparkling as if impressed with her young lover's respectful viewpoint. So, if I asked you to quit screwing her, what would you say? He shrugged and said, I understand your concerns. I probably would feel the same as you. But as far as ending our friendship, I'd have to leave that decision up to her. Lila is a very intelligent, passionate woman. If she doesn't want to see me again, I'll respect her wishes. If she does, I don't know how I can say no to her. I found myself unable to dislike this guy. I appreciated his honesty, but hated him at the same time. As reasonable as he sounded, the end result was that unless I physically took him out, or found some way to strong-arm him, he was going to continue screwing my wife whether I liked it or not. I looked away and found Lila and Shithead exchanging glances. I hated the look of adoration on her face. She was as old as his mother, but in his presence, she was just an adolescent teen with a crush on her teacher. No matter how Lila used to feel about me, it was certain that now I wasn't in the same category as her new hot boyfriend. I was totally deflated by his glib speech. I guess I could have taken a swing at him, and maybe even connected a couple times. But he was in great shape, and probably could have kicked my ass with no problem. In a fight, he would have made me look even more foolish than I already felt. Feeling like a deluded old fool, I pushed past the asshole and headed out the door without looking back. I heard my wife and Jake exchange a few hushed words. Then she trotted out after me. Luke, wait up, honey, she called out from behind. I heard her high heels clicking on the hard floor as I walked as fast as I could back to my car. I didn't even want to be around her now. The whole conversation left me feeling weak and emasculated. It was obvious how much Lila thought of him. I knew I can't compete with a young, fast-talking stud like him. I hated him for seducing my silly wife, although at the moment I was probably more upset with her than I was with him. Lila was quiet on the ride home. She said a few kind words to me, but mostly she just sat there staring out the window, no doubt thinking about the strange scene in her classroom. I don't know what she thought about her boyfriend now, probably more impressed with him than ever. I know my status took a big hit. I came off as weak, bewildered, and hesitant, while he babbled confidently about his respect for me and how impressed he is with my wife. Shit. We got home, and as I trudged up to my bedroom, I felt like I was 67 instead of 47. Lila could see I was depressed, and she tried to make me feel better, but it was no use. She even suggested giving me a back rub, and maybe more, as she put it, to help me sleep. I wasn't interested in having her touch me in the least. She cast me a sad smile as she got in her nightgown and lay next to me in bed. The next night, I moved my clothes into the guest room. Lila was very disappointed at that. She argued with me to stay. I told her what was the point now that she was getting her jollies with Jake. She fired back that I was her husband and my place was by her side. She even promised to give me anything I wanted sexually if I just stay by her side at night. I let her go on and on as I ignored her, and pretty soon, I was sleeping in the small, single bed in our guest room. Lila went to bed that night sobbing. That week went by in a blur. Lila and I got up, went to work, came home, ate dinner, and went to bed. Later we had an argument, and she just denied that I had any reason to leave her. She said I was just being childish and I could move back anytime I regained my senses. I refused to back down, and after that night we didn't sleep together anymore. Lila was always home before me, which was no surprise because I normally worked later than she did. She always had something ready to eat, and we just ate without saying too much. We had no weekend plans again, so Friday and Saturday nights were spent at home watching TV. After TV, we'd go to our separate bedrooms to sleep. I never knew if she was seeing Jake anymore. She never told me one way or the other, but I suspected she was. Even if I got home on time, she had plenty of time to screw him after school let out. He didn't live far from their school, so I'm sure they were together. She tried her best to keep her affair from me, but I'm not stupid. After watching her glowing expression as he spread his crap in her classroom, he was probably getting more sex from her than I ever did. Lila knew that I was depressed. She stayed friendly all the time and let me know that she was anxious to restart our love life if I wanted. In the evening, she would wear something a little revealing and ask me if I needed her help as she gave me some encouraging looks. We both tried to keep our conversations upbeat and casual. A couple months after the confrontation in her classroom, I came home feeling worn out and depressed. I saw Lila's car in the driveway. There was another car next to it that I didn't recognize. I went in the house and found Lila and another woman out on the deck. Both of them were laying on our lounge chairs and both were in bathing suits. The sun was low, so they weren't getting a tan. They were just relaxing in the shade, sipping on glasses of wine. Lila heard me come in and got up and came inside. Her friend stayed outside. "Hey, Luke." She greeted me. "I'm glad you're home." She came and went to kiss me, but as usual I turned my cheek. I guess she expected it now because she didn't act surprised. "Poor baby," she cooed, holding me. "Rough day?" "Not really." "That's good," she said. "Then why don't you get changed into something more comfortable, Luke, and come out back and meet my friend Susan?" "Luke, this is Susan," Lila said, making the introduction. "I've known her for just a short time, but she's a good friend and she wanted to meet you." "Hello, Luke," the woman said, getting up and shaking my hand. "Nice to meet you, Susan." The woman gave me a firm handshake and a smile. She's a short, vivacious woman with short blonde hair and a curvy body. She was a little overweight, with a pretty face, and her one-piece suit fit tight around her generous curves. I guess Susan was in her mid to late 40s. Both were attractive, mature women that most guys would admire. After an hour or so of chatting, Lila called a Chinese restaurant for takeout. When the food arrived, we went inside and sat around the kitchen eating. Both women were drinking wine, and as the evening wore on, were getting giggly. It was Friday night, so I knew they wouldn't have to go to school in the morning. It was getting rather late, and I was feeling a little tired. The women were still sipping wine and seemed pretty high by now. I only had 3 beers, so I was far from drunk. They were laughing as Susan told another of her funny stories. When I told them I was headed up to bed, both of them looked a little surprised. "Bedtime already?" Susan quipped. "It's not even 11 o'clock, honey. He gets tired early now." Lila laughed. "I think he's getting old." That made both of them laugh. I didn't join them. After living like a monk for so long, I was a little annoyed by Lila's pointed joke. I guess she noticed my peeved expression and patted my hand. I got tired of listening to their crap. "Good night, you two," I said gruffly as I got up and left. That night I had an incredible sex dream of a woman with me. It was very vivid, so much so that it woke me up. My brain was foggy. I was almost ready to climax when I opened my eyes and was surprised when the erotic sensation in the dream didn't end. I looked down my body to see a blonde woman's head in my lap. As my sleepy brain came awake, I felt someone lying next to me and found Lila there. I was shocked to say the least. I bolted upright and shoved the woman off my lap, then I jumped out of bed feeling very disoriented. It was still dark. As I stood there trying to gather myself, I saw both Lila and Susan lying naked on the bed, watching me with smiles on their faces. "What the hell are you doing?" I cried in shock. "We're just trying to make you feel good, honey," Lila told me softly. "I thought you'd like it." "Yes, big boy," Susan said, reaching out her hand. "Come back to bed and let me finish what we started. You're going to love it." "Please, Luke," Lila whispered. "I know what you told me, but it's been too long. I want you to be happy, honey. Just let us take care of you, please." "Screw you," I was angry and confused. How dare they trick me in my sleep when I couldn't stop them? Maybe Susan didn't realize what a sore subject our sex life was, but Lila sure did. I left the room in a huff and went downstairs to the kitchen. I spent a few moments washing my face in the sink to get the sleep from my eyes. When I turned around, both women were standing in the doorway. They were watching me closely. They seemed a little embarrassed as they moved to the kitchen table. They had their robes on. "What the hell were you thinking?" I asked them harshly. They shared an uneasy glance. Lila said softly, "We just want to help you." "Yes, Luke," said Susan. "Lila told me about your, situation. She thought that I could help bring you out of your slump. I still think I can if you let me." "I don't need any help," I said. "And I'm not in a damn slump." I pointed accusingly at my wife. Everything was fine until she met this jerk-off and had to cheat on me. She said nothing would change between us. See how that worked out? Everything changed. She's been cheating on me for months, and I'm pretty damn sick of it. "She told me that," said Susan. "I personally don't think she should behave that way, but she's a big girl and makes her own decisions." I shot back, "Yeah, she made that clear, and look where we are now." "I know she doesn't want to hurt you, Luke." "Easy for you to say," I told her. "Don't you think it hurts knowing my wife isn't satisfied with me? She has to go screw some guy half her age to get her rocks off. How do you think I feel? Lila's getting screwed really good, all right. Her hot shit boyfriend's screwing her so good. Now she can't quit screwing him. She basically told me I have to live with it. Like it or not, I'm stuck with her sorry ass." Lila cringed at my accusation. It's nothing I haven't said before, but maybe this is the first time Susan has heard it. She glanced over at my wife with a knowing look. Then she looked back at me. "I didn't mean any harm, sugar. We thought you might like to try both of us. I thought you'd enjoy it. I think most men would." "I'm not most men," I yelled at her. "I'm sick of her cheating. I hate cheaters. She knows that. Instead of ending her sleazy affair like she should, she wants me to cheat too. And when I won't, you both try to force me to cheat when I'm asleep. That's a low blow, Lila, even for a 304 like you." Susan looked a little guilty and Lila's eyes lowered to the floor. "I just want to make you happy," my wife whispered, with a catch in her voice. I thought you might like to have both of us. I know you don't want me, but Susan's a sexy woman. She wanted to be with us tonight. I thought it would be fun." "Well, screw that," I snapped. "What do you plan next? To drug me and put me into a trance where I'm out of my mind? Come on, Luke. We didn't do anything that bad." "Oh yeah? Well, I got an idea. Why don't you two invite Jake over? I'm sure that horny bastard will jump at the chance to screw a couple 304s like you. And since you're so into it, how about I make a few calls to some sick guys I know? You can have an orgy. Wouldn't that be great? Think how many screw tonight." "Please stop it, Luke," Lila said with irritation. "I get it. We made a mistake. Okay, no need to go crazy and be so insulting. So now I'm the crazy one? Well, I'm out of here," I said, leaving the room. "You both make me sick." I thought about going to a hotel, but damn it, I wasn't going to let my stupid wife chase me out of my own house. I went into the guest room, locked the door, and moved the dresser in front of it. Now if they try to sneak in, at least I'll hear them coming and can defend myself. The next day I realized that I couldn't take anymore. I went to my lawyer during my lunch and told him to go through with the divorce. When I explained how my wife and her friend wanted to ambush me during my sleep, he suggested we use a restraining order to get her out of the house and keep her away. I said that was fine. He explained that she wanted to trap me into a similar relation as her and have a moral high ground. 2 days later, Lila was served at her school during lunch. The server went right into the teacher's break room and served her in front of her friends. Then he served Jake the a-hole for alienation of affection. After that, he went to the principal's office and served him for allowing Lila and Jake to carry on an affair during school hours on school property. We didn't have proof of that last charge, but we were going to round up witnesses about the exercise class and hoped the story Lila told me left out that part. I was sure that some of the teachers suspected Jake and my wife's affair. Time would tell. Either way, it was a fact that they were cheating and I was suffering for it. I got a call at work right after lunch. "Damn you, Luke." Lila screamed at me. "You damn fool. I told you what would happen in a divorce. It can't be worse than living with a cheater and a molester. I'm sick of you and your jerk of a boyfriend. Both of you can go to hell." "I get why you're upset with me," she said. "You've made that clear dozens of times. But did you have to involve Jake in your revenge? He's a nice guy. Having this charge on his record will not be good for his career. Tough shit. He should have thought about that before he decided to screw a coworker. He's just as much of a sleaze bag as you and deserves everything he's getting. By the way, don't bring any of your 304s to the house anymore. And you can stay away too." You can read the restraining order I've had taken out against you. You have to keep away from me. I've also changed the locks so you can't bring your girlfriends over to force me anymore. You're nuts. It wasn't like that at all, she yelled. Most guys would have jumped at the chance to have two hot women in bed. But not you. I guess two sexually charged females are too much for a wimp like you. Susan was right. You are one screwed up guy. By the way, is your friend Susan married? If so, I'd like to have a word with her husband and let him know what kind of a woman he's married to. Screw you. Not anymore. I laughed. Come get your things from the driveway before it rains and they get ruined. If you want anything else, just talk to my lawyer. You better not, she started to say before I hung up on her. Lila came by that night and picked up her clothes. I watched her from the window as she came to the house with her friend Heidi. She yelled a few curses at me and gave me the finger. I just laughed. Now that she was out of the house, I felt a big sense of relief. Her wayward ways were no longer on my mind. The kids called me a few times. Martha was a little angry with me. She found out what her mother had done, and she didn't approve of it. She asked me if I could ever forgive her and take her back. I told her a simple no. Her mother is not worth it. Robbie was more sympathetic. He understood that his mother had messed up. He didn't blame me for kicking her out, and I appreciated that. I told both of them I still loved them, and they could count on me if they ever needed help. We still have a good relationship. My lawsuit against the school board never went anywhere. Apparently, Lila was truthful that she never had sex on school grounds. She and her boyfriend only screwed at his apartment or some other place, but never at the school. In fact, we had trouble finding anyone who even knew they were having an affair. So, she was right that they had kept their cheating a secret. But the fact that we couldn't prove misconduct while on school grounds didn't save Jake's job. He was let go with a stern reprimand, and he soon moved out of the area because of the gossip. Lila was fired too. She was quite bitter about it and yelled at me on a few phone calls that her work problems were all my fault. She applied to a school out of the area, but they had found out about her affair and wouldn't hire her. Martha told me she was working as a receptionist as a real estate company in the next town over. The divorce took a while to go through. We had to sell our house because neither Lila or I could afford it on our own. I might have been able to, but it was too big for me anyway. Lila only took a few items from our house when she moved. I got a 2-bedroom apartment near my work and put a lot of our furniture into temporary storage. Why did I take so long to divorce her, you may ask? Let me explain. In all the months that I was living with her, I slowly cleaned out our joint accounts. She never knew as she was too involved with her affair. After the divorce, I didn't date much. I was gun-shy with women and money was tight with the kids' school bills and Lila's alimony. I wasn't able to hide much from Lila's lawyer. But once I was on my own, I spent very little and my finances began to improve. I put myself into my work and am now getting near a promotion at my company. After the fiasco with my wife, I'm a little leery about my ability to handle a long-term relationship. I didn't feel comfortable jumping right back into the dating scene. I met a few nice ladies from concerned friends. I don't know how it will turn out. But even without a steady relationship, I do enjoy meeting women and hope to find some female companionship with a nice woman. One Friday night, I was out with an attractive woman I met from work. Her name is Holly, and she's in her late 30s and has been divorced for a few years. She's sweet as can be, a lot of fun and good looking. It was our third date, and we were across town enjoying our dinner at a nice restaurant. We were having our coffee and dessert when I noticed a familiar-looking older woman a few tables away. The old woman was painfully thin, with short blonde hair, and was having dinner with a much older man. He was frail-looking, and what little hair he had left was gray. He looked to be in his 70s. At first glance, I didn't recognize her. But looking closer, I saw it was my ex-wife, Lila. I mentioned to my date that my ex was close by. Holly looked over and seemed rather shocked. "That woman's your ex-wife?" she stated with amusement. "She looks more like your mother than your wife." I explained that she was a few years older than me, 4 to be exact, and that she must be having a rough life after we split up. I was a little worried how thin she was, almost too skinny. "Gosh," Holly laughed. "She looks old enough to be your mother, and he looks like her father. I can hardly believe she was your wife." I tried to appear unaffected, but inside I was worried about Lila. She had on a sleeveless dress, and I could see the flesh on her arms was just flapping skin hanging off her bones. The wrinkles on her face that she had when we were together seemed to have deepened considerably. I didn't tell Holly, but she looked very unhealthy. I hope she was taking care of herself. We didn't discuss her anymore. We finished our delicious meal and were leaving the restaurant. We went to the front and Holly needed to use the bathroom. So I waited by the entrance for her when I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Hello, Luke," a familiar voice said to me. "Hi, Lila," I replied. I turned around and there she was. Her face had aged a lot, so much that I barely recognized her. I was going to politely say how well she looked, but I didn't want to lie. Instead, I just said, "How nice to see you. How are you?" "Oh, not too bad." Her once sparkling blue eyes had dulled. Her face was thinner and the skin looked ashen, with an unhealthy pallor in her cheeks that was worrisome. "I speak to Martha and Robbie sometime," I told her. "They seem to be doing well in school." "I'm glad about that." "Yes. Martha comes and visits once in a while. Robbie, not so much." We just stared at each other for a minute. "Well, Lila, I don't want to keep you from your date." "He's not my date." "Not really," she replied vaguely. "Oh, are you still with Jake then?" I asked innocently. A haunted look came into her dull blue eyes. Lila lowered her head for a moment before she spoke. "No, Jake and I aren't together anymore," she answered in a raspy voice. "I haven't seen him since a few months after our divorce." She looked up at me and added softly, "But that's okay. I don't want to see him anyway." "Sorry to hear that." "Yeah." There was an awkward pause, and I wanted to end the conversation before Holly returned. "Well, it was nice to see you again, Lila." "Yes, it is," she said, holding my gaze. Her skinny fingers suddenly grasped my arm in a surprisingly tight grip. "You know, Luke, I'm really sorry how things turned out between us." "You were right, you know." "I was?" "Yeah, about everything. Jake wasn't worth it. I know that now." She spoke with emotion. Her eyes were watery. "Are you married? I saw your date. She's real pretty." "No, I'm not married. You know what they say, once bitten, twice shy." I meant it as a joke, but she didn't laugh. She just watched me with sad eyes. "Yeah, I hear that, honey. You always were the man for me." I knew it then, but was too stupid to appreciate it. "Oh, well, I don't know what to say," I replied, a bit tongue-tied. "Listen, Luke, if you ever feel like talking about it," she said as she shoved a scrap of paper in my hand. Her wrinkled face watched me for my reaction. I didn't reject the paper, and for a moment, her blue eyes sparkled again like they used to when I loved her. "I really would like to hear from you, Luke. I know we can never be together. I know I messed that up, but I hope you're happy now. I know you weren't with me. Your date is real pretty. I just hope she appreciates the opportunity she has to be with you." Then without another word, Lila turned from me and shuffled back to her table. She said something to the old man. He glanced over at me with a curious look. Holly came out of the restroom about that time. "You ready to go, Luke?" "I sure am." We left arm in arm. I left the restaurant and threw the scrap of paper in the trash on my way out. That was the last time I saw Lila. I heard from her kids that she was living with some old guy a couple towns away, probably the same guy I saw her with at the restaurant. They said she's not doing too well. Her health isn't good and she has diabetes. Luckily, the guy has money to support her. Holly and I never married, but I'm still doing well working as an accountant. I still see my kids as much as I can, but not their mother. I guess I still feel something for her. But after what she put me through, I can never live with her again and want to keep it that way. Dear listeners,